G'day dreamers, welcome back to another episode of the Come Up Starter Kit, and we have a fiery episode for you today. If you've ever thought about becoming a blacksmith, well, in this episode we are going to learn everything about becoming a blacksmith. Now we're going to go meet David Wood, who is a renowned blacksmith. Let's go say hello. Woody!
Shankar,
Good to see you.
good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for jumping on board the Come Up Starter Kit.
Not a problem at all.
Now, Woody is a blacksmith and the founder of Bent Metal. Woody, what is Bent Metal?
Bent Metal is a little blacksmithing shop down in South Melbourne. It was set up in the early 90s as for me to explore my sculptural practice, but now we create a lot of larger pieces around town. We work primarily in steel, creating gates, architectural features, sculpture, and anything else people throw at us, really.
Very good. Now, Woody, for people that may not know what a blacksmith is, what is a blacksmith?
A blacksmith is someone who heats up steel and hammers it in the fire and makes things out of it. We're called blacksmiths because we work in iron, which is primarily a black steel, and we get very black when we're working in it, as opposed to a silversmith or a goldsmith or a bronzesmith. So it's someone who just works in iron, basically.
Very cool. Now, Woody, interestingly enough, you actually studied mathematics.
I did. As a kid, I was always interested in art and sculpture and always loved making things. I also wanted to be an architect for a long time, but I was sent off to school to study mathematics like lots of people were in the 80s to discover computers and that sort of thing. But I always kept practicing my art practice. The school I went to had quite a large art school as well, so I always found myself in the art classes and hanging out with the art students. And then after school, took up blacksmithing as a bit of a hobby, went and did a little course with a few different teachers, worked under a Swiss-German blacksmith for a little while, and then basically just sort of grew from there and took up my own business and started from there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, you've actually worked with some amazing clients, L'Oreal, RM Williams, and you've also done the gates at St Kilda Botanical Gardens.
Yeah, that's right. I did those about 10 years ago now. That was a lovely project to work on. They're heritage listed, so they're going to be there for time immemorial. I've done quite a bit of work around St Kilda. I did the large sculptural piece that's in Ackland Court there as well, and the Smick Rocket, the gates for the Veg Out Gardens down there. The public works are probably the ones I'm most proud of. I recently did a piece down in Elstonwick Park that was a sort of rotunda piece, sculptural piece down there. Lots of gates for domestic clients around St Kilda as well, and entered a few art prizes. I currently have a sculptural piece down in the Montalto Sculpture Prize down in Red Hill, and that just won People's Choice Award. So yeah, it keeps me busy.
Doing some amazing work.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, I'm seeing a whole lot of drawings behind us and this amazing desk.
Yeah.
What is all this?
Well, this is basically where I start my design process. All my work starts with drawing, pencil and paper. I don't do any CAD design or anything like that. Right. I sit down with clients. I work them through the process of what I'm doing. We talk about design, we discuss different things, and then I basically just put my pen to paper and start drawing and design that way.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so what is the process? So a client will come to you and say, I've got an idea, and then you sort of draw it out?
Yeah. I will sit down and with them usually, or go visit the property and have a look at the sort of things that they like and the architecture of the property and work in with that. Sit down, do a drawing. I'll then sort of move to a 1:1 scale drawing, which means I draw the piece full size so that I then have a template to work off when I'm actually forging the piece. Okay. And with larger sculptural pieces, I usually work with a marquette. So I'll make a smaller model of the piece itself.
Okay.
For example, this one behind you here is a sculpture I did a couple of years ago now. That's out in Donnybray, out in the northern suburbs.
Right.
So this is sort of a smaller work to help me explore the piece itself,
right,
and then sort of develop a process of making the piece. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's how things come to fruition.
Lovely. Now, in the next segment, we're actually going to do some forging.
Yeah, we're going to get downstairs and get dirty.
And get dirty.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Join us in the next segment while we learn the art of becoming a blacksmith. All right, guys, here we are downstairs. I feel like a real blacksmith. I've got my apron on, and now Woody's doing some drawing. Woody, what are we doing here?
We're starting the next stage of a process when we're actually finalised our ideas, realised our concept. This is where we go to next, which is a one-to-one scale drawing of the thing we want to make. This is a gate I'm making for a house down in Middle Park, quite a large door. So this is where I start developing the idea to its full realisation by drawing it at a one-to-one scale that will assist me in making the piece, knowing how long I want everything to be, knowing how it all fits into the scale of the design. So I'm drawing all my scrolls, I'm drawing different aspects of the gate, where the lockbox is going to go. These are some cast elements that are going to be incorporated into the gate. So once I've had my drawing all fully done, I start to measure up the scrolls and different elements I'm going to make. So I'll take a flexi curve, I'll measure up the scroll, so take a measurement of that and then write it on the drawing. So then when I go to make the piece, I know exactly how long I have to cut all the material and have it all set up ready for the forge. So you're not just making one piece at a time and bringing that back to the design, you're actually working out everything that you have to make to start with.
Okay.
And it's also a good way of the client realising the design as well. We can take the design along and put it in front of the door so they get a good idea of what it looks like. You can make any changes you want to make before you start actually forging it, so you don't have to cut it all up after it's made. So yeah, this is where we go to next when we're about to start forging a gate.
Okay. And you've sort of mentioned scrolls. There's also other designs in here.
Yeah.
Are there particular designs or I guess shapes that you use that are quite common within being a blacksmith?
Yeah, I suppose there are, and it's about forming the shapes, different things that can be formed over the anvil, easily or not.
Okay.
As I said, people tend to think of blacksmithing as a very traditional art and are looking for a traditional look a lot of the times. I like to break out and be a bit more modern, but this client is very particular about the sort of gate he's looking for. And it actually does go back to a lot of mathematics as well. Creating a scroll is I see it as a very mathematical exercise. It's not just a bent piece of steel, it has particular mathematical properties to it.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's one way that sort of training comes into my work as well.
Now, Woody, what are some tricky parts when it comes to the drawing and designing aspects here that we find today?
I suppose it's about getting your measurements right, getting everything, because you really want to be economical when you're cutting your steel, and you really want to be economical when you're forging as well. You don't want to be going back and forth and saying, oh, that scroll's not quite the right length, or that piece of steel's not quite the right length. So it's about making sure you've got everything documented at the right size, at the right place, how many scrolls you need, how many pieces of steel you need. So then you can go away and order your steel, and so you're not sort of over ordering or under ordering. So it is about just making sure you draw everything that you need, everything at the right length, make sure you have it all documented. You don't want to go to the forge and start forging and then work out, oh, I need another scroll or I need another metre of steel. So it's about making sure you've got everything accounted for when you start working.
Yeah, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what do you think are the favourite aspects to this particular component within the process?
I really like drawing,
Yeah.
and creating and designing is one of my passions and my favourite things about the trade. So, I really enjoy just drawing at this scale.
Yeah.
I find it a really fun thing to do. And I really enjoy presenting these ideas to the clients, giving them the opportunity to have their own input, changing things if they want to. It's a really nice part of the process.
So Woody, there are different niches in actually being a blacksmith?
Yeah, definitely. I'm always asked the question, do you shoe horses, when I tell people I'm a blacksmith, but that's not what I do at all. Many people think blacksmithing is making knives. There's also tool makers, but I'm what's called a Kunstschmied in German, which is an artsmith. So my work is primarily and always about design, art and creative pieces.
Perfect. All right guys, what we're going to do now is from Woody's design, we're going to go down to the forging process to see how we're going to make this into a reality. All right guys, it's getting hot in the kitchen now. We've got some hot coal going on. Woody, what are we doing now?
Well, we've got the fire going and we're going to do some hammering.
Okay, and this is the forging process.
Yeah, this is where the real work starts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are we going to see you do now?
I'm just going to make a couple of little scrolls for you.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give you a go.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah.
Now, how hot is this getting?
This burns at about 1200 degrees or above 1200 degrees.
Okay.
That's about the heat that steel starts to be malleable.
Okay.
You can see it gets quite soft once it's hot.
Right.
It'll bend really easily.
Right.
Like we think of steel as a really hard material.
Yeah.
But once it's hot, it is actually quite malleable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And can it ever get to a point where it's too soft?
Yeah, it does. It'll melt.
Okay.
It'll burn. So
Right.
you might actually see some burn today if I leave it in the fire too long.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, I'm just going to start hitting it, and that's what forging is. You can see it changing shape. I'm just forging down a little point, stretching the steel out. And then I'll start rolling it into a scroll.
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh, wow.
not the best, but you get the idea.
So what is this thing that you're hitting it on?
This is called an anvil.
Right.
The anvil hasn't really changed in thousands of years.
Right.
Since smithing started. It's a large piece of steel. This is the horn of the anvil. These are different holes, the Pritchard hole for different tools, for shaping different bits of steel in different bits of ways.
Right.
Yeah, so the hammer and the anvil is one of the earliest pieces of, engineering equipment, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much time do you have until it starts to cool down?
Well, you can see, you have a couple of minutes to sort of forge away.
Right.
That's why we always have more than one iron in the fire.
Right.
So you're not stopping and waiting for it to heat up again. You're sort of working on 3 or 4 different pieces at a time.
And that's where the phrase came from.
That's it.
Plenty of. How does it go?
More than one anvil, more than one iron in the fire.
That's right.
Strike while the iron's hot.
Strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
And so this is how you bend it as well.
Yeah, this is called a bending fork.
Right.
So, and I have a wide range of tongs
Right.
for holding different pieces of material of different sizes.
Okay.
So that's why you have a lot of tongs for all the different sizes of steel.
What are the major ones that you use
Tongs.
Yeah.
Probably just the round tongs, something like that. If I had a nice short piece of material, then I'd be using, tongs to hold the steel. But, I'm working with lengths at the moment. You can see that's quite cool on that end.
Yeah.
So, the heat doesn't transfer too far down the piece.
Okay.
So you're able to work on it if you've got the right length.
A tricky question, how many times have you burnt yourself?
Oh, I've forgotten. I don't know.
Can it be quite a dangerous trade being a blacksmith?
Well, I suppose it is if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to brand yourself. So, it's quite gentle. I find it quite gentle and relaxing, really.
Yes.
I don't really find it a terribly dangerous thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of safety, what are the safety outfits that you need?
Just general leather aprons,
Yeah.
leather gloves,
Yeah.
eye protection,
Okay.
because you can get a lot of sparks off it
Okay.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Hearing protection,
Yeah.
all of which I never normally wear anyway.
Okay.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll have a go.
So that's how we cool it down in the quenching bucket.
Right.
And you can see now that's
you
cold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm about to have a go at forging some metal. Safety first, as always. All right, so we'll chuck on the glasses.
You're going to stand where I am at the anvil.
All right, I'm going to stand right here.
Yeah, pick up your hammer.
Pick up the hammer.
We stand over here.
All right.
We bring the hammer down at 90 degrees
Okay.
to the anvil, like that.
Right.
Yeah?
Woo! All right.
So you stand closer.
Like that.
Yeah, hold on to the steel
Hold on to the steel
and hit it.
and bang away.
Bang away.
And is there any particular thing that I'm looking to do while doing this?
You're trying to draw it into a point. You're trying to make a point at the end. How's it feel?
I feel like a real man. That's okay for a point, right?
Beautiful. Here's your next one.
Oh, okay. All right, guys, Woody is going to show us an important tool called the power hammer. Let's go check it out. Ooh, it's hot in the kitchen here. Now, Woody, what is so important about this tool?
It gives us a lot more time to work with the steel, works faster, harder. So, it just eases it up on the arm a bit and makes the work a little bit more fun.
Now, that was freaking insane. Now, what are we doing now?
Well, we're fabricating, we're joining bits of steel together by welding.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And that is the process. Once you've done the forging,
Yeah.
this is the almost like gluing the pieces together.
Yeah, we're gluing the pieces together with hot steel, if you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this the final stage?
Yeah, pretty much the final stage. This is when everything comes together, gets brought together as pieces and constructed into a whole.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And now, how hot is that flame?
It must be at about over 1200 degrees because that's when steel melts, is that temperature.
Okay.
It's not actually a flame. This is called a MIG welder. So this is using electricity to create the heat.
Okay.
And it's feeding wire down the gun onto the steel, heating it up with electricity and melding all the melting all the steel together.
Okay, and now how important is one of these bad boys?
They're essential for welding. You can't look at this without one.
Yes, because you can actually go blind.
Well, you can, yeah, if you looked at it for too long.
Right.
If you even just get a flash of it, like if you get a really bright light in your eye for too long, you'll get what they call welder's eye, which is just a really sort of itchy burning of the irises and that sort of thing. Yeah. So no, you can't do this without a helmet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now there's also a whole lot of tools behind us.
Yeah.
How do they all play into part when it comes to the last piece of the puzzle?
Well, basically these are all just your sort of measuring tools, clamping equipment to bring it all together, to hold it together while you're welding it. This is a nice steel bench, so we use magnets and things to hold everything together. It's just a basic fabrication bench.
Okay. Now, for people that may be interested in actually becoming a blacksmith, but not knowing how to actually go about it, what would be some advice that you would give them?
Just to get started, really. To maybe find a hobby group. There are a few sort of hobby groups around Melbourne who have courses available. There are no really schooling anymore. There's no apprenticeships that you can do in blacksmithing. There used to be a large apprenticeship school that actually my grandfather taught at RMIT. Right. So you used to be able to do it as a trade and do an apprenticeship, but not so much anymore. So it is about finding people that do it, getting out there and giving it a go, really. You can sort of set up a basic blacksmithing shop yourself. You can use gas to heat the steel as opposed to coke. You don't really need a big coke forge to start some really basic things. But it is one of those trades that you do need a reasonable amount of equipment to get started with. So I would suggest going out and finding somebody that does it and asking them if you can, come in and have a go. There are schools in Germany, over in Europe. They have sort of a large culture around smithing and metalwork. Okay. I'm not suggesting anyone's going to fly to Germany just to learn how to smith.
Right.
But I think if you really want to do it, there are ways of finding people that can help you learn the trade.
Now you mentioned that try and find someone. You actually worked under a renowned blacksmith.
Yeah.
How important was it to have a mentor?
Oh, it was amazingly important. Yeah. I mean, he was an amazing tradesman and had he'd third generation smith, so he'd learnt under his grandfather. Some of those skills just simply don't exist anymore. A lot of them are being lost because there's just not enough people doing the trade.
Yeah.
Really important to meet someone that was making a living out of it, doing really important work around town. He was restoring a lot of the old metal work in places like the Block Arcade and places like that. So it was really crucial for me to actually meet him.
Right.
And, discover the trade through him, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what would you say are the difficulties at the end stage when we're doing the welding part or the fabricating part?
It's basically nutting out how things fit together.
Yeah.
I suppose in traditional smithing, they would not have had electronic welding. Electronic welding's only been around in the later part of the earlier part of the 1900s, say late 1800s. Yeah. So originally things were all riveted together, hammered together. You can forge weld, which is about putting the steel in the fire and hammering it together using different fluxes and that sort of thing.
What's riveting?
Riveting is drilling two holes, joining pieces together and putting another steel and joining it together with another piece of steel. Yeah. A lot of things like the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Eiffel Tower, they're all riveted together. There was no sort of welding back in those days. So welding is quite a modern technique, if you like, in bringing metal together. Yeah.
And is there a certain skill set that someone will sort of develop, or are there any tips that you would provide someone when it comes to welding?
Welding is something you can go do an apprenticeship in. Okay. You can be a boilermaker.
Yeah.
So you can learn welding pretty easily. Yeah. And you can buy a welder and start fabricating things together in your backyard, in your shed. But again, it's sort of a bit of a diversion from blacksmithing, but a modern blacksmith really utilises everything, that's available to bring the pieces together. Yeah.
Use all the tools that they can in their craft to their disposal.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, guys, in the next segment, Woody is going to teach us his top 3 tips if you are looking to become a blacksmith.
I'm Woody from Bent Metal. My top 3 tips if you're looking to become a blacksmith are: tip number 1, seek out some hobby courses. I know they do them over at Waterside Forge in Footscray. Tip number 2, look for a local blacksmith and see if you can go help out or get an apprenticeship. And tip number 3 is to just follow your passions and keep sticking to your art.
All right, Dreamers, I hope you had an amazing day here at Bent Metal with Woody, learning how to become a blacksmith. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Come Up Starter Kit.